Hello and welcome to another edition of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. Today I'll be ranking the albums of the legendary Canadian progressive power trio Rush, possibly my favorite band of all time. I love these guys. I've been listening to them nonstop for about 30 years since my dad actually purchased this compilation called Chronicles that came out in 1990. And I mean, he got it, I heard it, and I pretty much just took it up to my room and I just kept it there and I just memorized it for years until I started to buy some of their other albums. They have 19 studio albums, which I'll rank all 19. I just want to preface it by saying all 19 are awesome. They're all excellent. Rush always put out quality material. So if I rank them lower, I'll explain why, or maybe stylistically they were doing something different. But everything they do is great, and I listen to all of these albums. So without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So coming in at number 19, and by no means a bad album, but I'm going to go with their debut from 1974, the self-titled album. This is the only one without Neil Peart. So you've got John Rutsey on drums. And it's good. It's just a heavy, bluesy, rockin' album. Typical of a lot of the music coming out at that time. But these guys, you could tell they had a little something extra. But you've got songs like Working Man, In the Mood, What You're Doing, Finding My Way, stuff like that. So it's good. I think it's good for what it is. I guess I prefer Rush with Neil in the band because his lyrical concepts are missing here. And there's just not a lot of progressive stuff. There's just not too much progressive going on here. But you can tell the band is talented. They clearly know what they're doing. So at number 19, I'm going with their self-titled debut from 74. Okay. At number 18, 15 years forward, we've got 1989's Presto. The producer on this is Rupert Hine. The reason I bring that up, his productions, while he knows how to make a clear sound, he lightens the band up so much. Like, you might be able to hear what the bass is doing, but it doesn't have any texture or grit to it. Alex Lifeson's guitars are so light. Just everything's very light on this album. Show Don't Tell is probably the best song. The Pass is pretty good. Superconductor. There are a couple more tracks, but to me this is, again, not a bad album. Just stylistically, I'm wanting something different from the band, but I think it's cool that they tried this. But I just think the production on here is just well done for what it is. I wish it was a little beefier, and I don't. There aren't a lot of tracks on here that I really like, or that are very memorable. So at number 18, I've got Presto. At number 17, I've got the follow-up to Presto, also produced by that guy, Rupert Hine. Roll the Bones. This is a much better album, but I like a lot of these songs better live because they're heavier live. Again, you've got heavier material here that, again, Rupert Hine is kind of, he's just not making the bass aggressive enough, or, just everything's very compressed down, or, but Dreamline to open it is great. Again, great live. Bravado, Roll the Bones, the title track. Where's My Thing is an instrumental. Ghost of a Chance might be the best thing on here. So I think this is a very good album. It would have been cool to hear this with, a different producer, just to see if they could have flushed out the heavier aspects of these songs. All these songs are great live, though. Okay, number 16. You got, after a 6-year hiatus, you've got Rush comes back in 2002 with Vapor Trails. I like the direction on this. This is, where Alex is back to just playing heavy riffing guitars on a Les Paul, and Geddy's bass is again gritty and in the mix, and Neil's back to just doing what Neil does. So I like the direction on this. My only problem is I don't find a ton of the tracks very memorable. I mean, everything's okay, but the tracks I like the most are Peaceable Kingdom and The Stars Look Down, which I'm pretty sure are just deep cuts because I didn't see them play those live. Secret Touch is pretty cool. And then, you've got Ghost Rider and Earthshine and a few others. But I think I like everything about this except that I like the direction of this. Just a lot of the tracks aren't super memorable, but I still, it's still a pretty good album. you know, it's coming in at what, number 16 here? Vapor Trails, 2002. Okay, at number 15, and I would have ranked this much lower a few years ago, but you know, upon listening to this some more, you've got 1987's Hold Your Fire. I think the thing is, I don't really care for the direction the band's going in at this stage, but you can't deny the songs on here, the ones that are good are really good. So that's why this is going to be number 15 from 87. Again, thin bass, super thin guitar, electronic drums, or, you know, the Simmons kit that Neil's playing on. But I do love the song Force 10. I think Time Stands Still is such a well-written song. Open Secrets is super catchy. I love that song. And Turn the Page. So those 4 songs are driving this ahead of some of the others, because while I don't care for the stylistic direction on Hold Your Fire and Presto, you can't deny that the good songs are really good. So, number 15, Hold Your Fire from 87. Number 14, an album that I think a lot of people kind of crap on, and I don't know why. 1996's Test for Echo. It's maybe a little less obviously progressive, you know, not long songs and not super complicated, but it doesn't matter. You've got Neil Peart on drums. You've got Alex Lifeson on guitar. You've got Geddy Lee on vocals and bass. I mean, how can they... You're going to get good music. And you get awesome hooks with Test for Echo, the title track, Driven, Half the World, Time and Motion, Totem, Virtuality, Resist. I mean, just tons of good, catchy material. I wish they had done a live video for this era of the band, because I do like this album. I think I like this album a lot more than the average Rush fan. So Test for Echo is coming in at number 14 from 96. At number 13, and this could be somebody's like number 3 or something, but you know, I had to rank them the way I see them. And at number 13, I've got their second album from 75. I've got Fly By Night. The first one with Neil on drums, and he makes his presence known early. Suddenly the lyrical content is changing. You know, you got By Tor and the Snow Dog, Beneath, Between, and Behind. You know, Anthem is one of my top 5 Rush songs, period. That leads this album off, so that's an incredible song. Best I Can was a song they played with John Rutsey from the first era. It's the best song that wasn't on the first album, but they play it here, and it sounds great because Neil suddenly, you've got a new drummer behind the kid who's just this progressive metal precision drummer guy who's also adding better lyrical content. And Alex and Geddy, just the way they play their instruments on this album is just, they're stepping up their game as well. So I really do dig this album. It's just, you know, I like Anthem. I like By Tor and the Snow Dog. You know, Beneath, Between, and Behind's all right. And, you know, there are a couple of other okay tracks. You know, I dig this album. Very important album from them. They really started to take off once Neil joined the band. So it's coming in at number 13. Just tells you how awesome their catalog is. So there you go. 75's Fly By Night. Number 12, also from 75. They put out 2 albums that year. The second one in 75 and their third album, Caress of Steel, which is what we're listening to now. This kind of got crapped on as well. I think people know Bastille Day in Lakeside Park, but the thing I love about this album is they've got a 12.5-minute song we're listening to now called The Necromancer. Total deep, dark, progressive, creative track. And then side 2 is a almost 20-minute long The Fountain of Lamneth, which is completely experimental and out there. So for me, you've got a couple, 2, 3 catchy songs, but then you got these 2 mammoth, experimental, dark, progressive, heavy metal songs that people just completely forget about. The deepest tracks of their career are on this album. And to me, I'll get to this a little bit later when I talk about the follow-up album to this. But at number 12, an excellent album, Caress of Steel. At number 11, their final album from 2012, Clockwork Angels. Awesome album. Nick Raskulinecz produces, and he's a great producer. He's probably the best producer they had since Terry Brown did like all of their albums from the heyday. Caravan might be my favorite song on here. The title track, a song called Halo Effect. Headlong Flight. This is just good Rush, just being aggressive and just laying it all out there, but also with this cool atmospheric production. This is a dark, heavy album, but it's also a fun album. It's just got everything. It's just an awesome album, and what a strong way to go out with Clockwork Angels from 2012. At number 10 from 2007, the album before Clockwork Angels, Snakes and Arrows. I think this one gets criminally overlooked too, but I love this album from beginning to end. This Nick Raskulinecz produced this one as well. Far Cry, Working Them Angels, The Main Monkey Business, Armor and Sword, Spindrift, The Larger Bull. I think this album is great. I think this is overlooked. Most people consider Clockwork Angels the better of the two. I prefer this album. Not to take anything away from Clockwork, but I think this is an album that people should probably, listen to again. It's really good. All right, number 9, classic, 1984, Grace Under Pressure. The first one after Terry Brown had produced the previous 8. The only one they did with Peter Henderson, but I like it. 84, so the keyboards are coming in more and more. But this album is still cool. It's got Distant Early Warning and Red Sector A are the two that everybody knows. But, I always like the song After Image. And Between the Wheels is a great last track, deep cut, whatever you want to call it. But they do play it live, and when they play it live, it's awesome. So this is a classic. Number 9, and we're already into classics. At number 8, the album after that from 1985, Power Windows. Again, this is a band an album that fans kind of crap on. It's just so 80s, But I disagree. I love it. The Big Money is one of the most well-crafted MTV songs they did. The Manhattan Project is just an incredibly well-crafted song. Mystic Rhythms is one of my favorite songs from them. The deepest cut nobody knows about that's great is Middletown Dreams. I also like Marathon and Grand Designs. And I dig the production on this. This is the only album where the bass isn't super aggressive and Alex Lifeson's doing the light guitar work. But this is the album where if I want to hear that style that they kept doing on Hold Your Fire and Presto and other albums, if I want to hear that style, I'll just reach for this, and I do quite a bit. So I just absolutely dig Power Windows, another criminally overlooked album in their catalog. Number 8. Number 7, my favorite album that wasn't from their heyday, 1993's Counterparts. So after a string of lighter albums with a lot of keyboards, they went back to Peter Collins, but this time they brought in Kevin Shirley to engineer it, and they beef up the album. So I think grunge was hitting and things were changing, and so they got back to just being, more organic. This album's awesome. Animate, Stick It Out, Cut to the Chase, Nobody's Hero if you can get past the lyrics, Alien Shore, Double Agent's cool, Leave That Thing Alone, which is great live, Cold Fire, awesome album, coming in at number 7. All right, number 6, I've got from 1982, Signals. This is the last one with Terry Brown producing. Side 1's perfect. You got Subdivisions, classic. The Analog Kid. Chemistry is another deep cut that nobody remembers that I think is great. Digital Man might be my favorite song on the album. Side 2, New World Man was on the Chronicles Greatest Hits. Losing It has violin, and then you've got Countdown at the end. The last riff on the whole album is the proggiest riff on the entire album. So this is a classic. Signals, 1982. And they're using the analog synths, but they blend them in the mix nicely. They were doing that with Terry Brown. It seemed like the synths were always under control, and they were just there to sort of help with the music and not get in the way. Okay, at number 5, these last 5 are all number 1s. These are all just absolute classics. 2112 from 1976. So the album before this, Caressive Steel, I guess it was kind of a disappointment at the time, but it was a test run for this because that had a sidelong track. This has a sidelong concept track called 2112. So the science fiction lyrics of Neil Peart are in full display here. And then on side 2, you got 5 3+ minute, 3-minute type songs that are all catchy. If you get the 40th anniversary version of this, Foo Fighters cover the edited 2112, the Tumbles of Syrinx. Foo Fighters cover that. Alice in Chains covers Tears. And Steven Wilson and his classic lineup with Guthrie Govan on guitar and Marco Miniman on drums cover Twilight Zone. You gotta hear it. It's freaking awesome. So this album is a classic. This is probably some people's number 1. 2112 from 76. All right, number 4, another absolute classic. From 1977, the one after it. A Farewell to Kings. I mean, they're just getting so progressive. They get on this stretch where every album just gets gets proggier than the last one. And they just keep going. I love it. Love this era of the band. You got the title track of Farewell to Kings. Then it goes into Xanadu. Total, just one of my favorite tracks. Just 11 minutes of just pure prog. Closer to the Heart was the radio hit. And then it finishes also with Cygnus X1, which is another strange science fiction-y one that's over 10 minutes. Very strange, but I love the fact that they include one highly experimental track on the album. So Farewell to Kings, number 4, but it's just the number 1 album. At number 3, this is definitely a number 1. I'm kind of wondering why I have it at 3, but at 1981, Moving Pictures. Probably their most successful album. You've got Tom Sawyer, you've got Limelight, you've got the instrumental YYZ, you've got Red Barchetta. Go to side 2, the long song Camera Eye, probably the proggiest thing. Witch Hunt, it's dark and moody, I love that song. Vital Signs is a cool little busy number. So this album is perfect. So at number 3, Moving Pictures, but it's a classic. At number 2, from 1980, 40th anniversary, you got Permanent Waves. Another perfect album. You've got songs that made it big on the radio but were so creative, like Spirit of Radio and Free Will. But you still got your big, long prog experimental epics like Jacob's Ladder and Natural Science. I love Natural Science. And then you've got shorter songs like Different Strings. I always thought was an awesome song. Just kind of overlooked. Maybe it's a little bit shorter, but what a great song. What a great, perfect album this one is, too. By the way, they did 5 perfect albums in a row. And they finished off that run, in my opinion, my number 1, 1978, Hemispheres. The most progressive thing they did. Side 1, you've got the song Cygnus X1, Book 2, Hemispheres. A nearly 20-minute song that's a continuation of that Cygnus X1 from the previous album. Side 2, you've got the heavy, concise Circumstances. The Trees follows that. The Trees is great. And La Villa Strangiato is a nearly 10-minute instrumental with some of Alex Lifeson's best guitar playing. And like A Farewell to Kings, this one was also recorded with Terry Brown in Wales at Rockfield Studios. Absolute gem, absolute classic, total prog. Love it. So real quick to recap, you've got, at 19, you've got the self-titled debut. At 18, you have Presto. At 17, you have Roll the Bones. At 16, you have Vapor Trails. At 15, you have Hold Your Fire. At 14, you have Test for Echo. At 13, you have Fly By Night. At 12, Caress of Steel. At 11, Clockwork Angels. At 10, Snakes and Arrows. At 9, Grace Under Pressure. At 8, Power Windows. At 7, Counterparts. At 6, Signals. At 5, 2112. At 4, A Farewell to Kings. At 3, Moving Pictures. At 2, Permanent Waves. And at number 1, Hemispheres. So an incredible discography of 19 albums. I also wanted to touch on, they had these great live albums. All the World's a Stage was the first one. Covers their first 4 albums. Exit Stage Left, probably my favorite thing, but we're not ranking live albums. From 81, covers Moving Pictures, Permanent Waves, Hemispheres, Farewell to Kings, a little bit of 2112 and Fly By Night, just a classic. A Show of Hands covers the rest of the 80s past Moving Pictures for the most part. In different stages is from the Test for Echo tour and a little bit of Counterparts, but that's a cool era. That's worth picking up, and it's got this bonus CD from early 78 off the Farewell to Kings tour. You got Bastille Day, By-Tor and the Snow Dogs, Xanadu, Farewell to Kings, Something for Nothing, Cygnus X1, Anthem, Working Man, Fly By Night, In the Mood, and Cinderella Man. So you got some cool deep cuts there that could be hard to find those anywhere else. So that, I didn't include this. It's just an EP of cover songs they did in 2004 called Feedback. Chronicles from my dad's collection that I pretty much just kept and for myself, but I just cut my teeth on this for several years before buying other stuff. These 2 vinyl, I've got Moving Pictures on vinyl, and I've got All the World's a Stage on vinyl. Pretty cool. Need to get more Hemispheres and Farewell to Kings in 2112. Would be nice to add to the vinyl collection. Chronicles, the DVD, it's got some videos. Rush Replay ×3 DVDs. It's got Exit Stage Left, so it's got some footage from that era. Grace Under Pressure Tour, so that's cool. You should see the way they're dressed in '84. Very strange. And A Show of Hands, so it's a video to go with the live album. Rush and Rio on DVD. This is when they came back off Vapor Trails. And Snakes and Arrows Live from '08. Very cool. And I got this R40 book, but it's got all these cool pictures of the band on tour, I presume, for the Clockwork Angels tour. But what's cool about it is I no longer need the Rush and Rio DVD because I have it on Blu-ray. R30, this is when I saw them, was on the R30 tour. Snakes and Arrows on Blu-ray now. This is an awesome show, Time Machine. They cover moving pictures in its entirety. Clockwork Angels Live is incredible. And then there's a bonus disc, and they give you this little sheet to tell you what's on all the discs. But it's got a performance from '74 with John Rutsey. It's got some footage from '76 on the 2112 tour. And it's got the only footage you'll find in the '90s. It's from '97 off the Test for Echo tour, so I really dig that. But man, what an awesome thing to have is R40. And then they put out one more Blu-ray in 2015 after that called R40 Live, and they go chronologically back in time. So they start with the newest stuff and they go all the way back to the beginning. And look at this, you get to towards the heyday YYZ, Natural Science, Jacob's Ladder, Hemispheres, Cygnus X1, Xanadu, 2112, Progressive Heaven. So that's awesome too. And then last but not least, Neil Peart, the late Neil Peart, what an amazing person, amazing drummer, lyricist, but he also wrote books. And he had lost his 19-year-old daughter and his wife within, I think, a 10-month period, in 97, 98. So this is a book called Ghost Rider Travels on the Healing Road. It's like September of 98, and now as I read it, it's like January of 99. But it's just him trying to figure out how to go on. He's just having trouble just even living at this point with all the grief. So, but it's him. He's from Ontario, but he's got a lake house in Quebec, and he just gets on his motorcycle and just starts riding across Canada and up into northern Canada and into Alaska, and then all down into the Pacific Northwest and all of the Rocky Mountain states and the coast, and he goes down into Mexico and Belize, just trying to survive and just figure it all out. But at this point he's back in Canada, and that's how far along I am. But just a good read, very interesting. What a fascinating guy, and he's got a handful of books too. So just what an awesome band. I pretty much love everything that Rush does, and I'm so glad they have 19 albums to enjoy and a few other things, and all these live albums and all this concert footage and books and everything else. So that pretty much covers it. So we ranked the 19 Rush albums and looked at a few other things, but hope you found it entertaining, and thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya.